Hey there.
Hello. Hi. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Long time no see.
It's been a while. Been a while since I've
Yeah.
done Azure Unpacked. I think I missed two.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we had got down for 2 previous months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that you've been away for those whole 2 months. It's just when you've been
No,
away, it's
timing.
those days we go live. Yeah.
Yeah. One was my holiday. The other one was timing.
Yeah.
But episode 8.
Yes.
There again. And we've got, before we get into stuff, how's your week?
Yeah, good so far. I'm doing some Azure DevOps pipeline work, a bit of Azure container apps. It's been fun. Some bicep logic, that kind of thing where you got to think. And then it was going so well yesterday with a bit of help from Copilot, and then GitHub just dies.
Oh,
was
it did,
down for
didn't
like
it?
5 hours or so. It was down for yesterday, which was crazy. But luckily, it was at the end of the day, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was a long outage. Yeah.
Yeah. Just have to go back to the old manual style of doing things and actually thinking.
Think.
Yeah.
We have to think again.
It's thinking in a different way because, with Copilot and AI, you still need to think. You can't just blindly go in and follow it. But, it's like thinking this is the business logic. This is what I want to do. And compared to, I need to think of how I'm going to write it. Let the AI do the easy part.
Yeah, which is good. But then, maybe you sometimes just need an outage to realize how much you get used to it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And, talking about, I see what I did there. Talking about outages.
Hey, before we go there, I want to know how your week's been so far.
My week's been...
and then try and do the...
I'll try it again. Yeah. No, my work, I've been working on documenting our AI initiatives internally. So we've got a lot of enthusiastic people building AI stuff, agents and whatnot. And I'm trying to document that and put that all together. So
nice, very cool.
Make some meaningful progress and share the successes. So that's been it's only the second day of the week. So I'll be working on that.
Are you using AI to help document the AI?
I
stuff?
definitely do.
Good.
I definitely do.
And
so
will it self-document?
Hopefully. So here's my plan. So we work we work in GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
So we have lots of repositories, internal ones, customer-facing ones, etc. And all of them contain issues because in GitHub, if you document like a work item, you will have an issue. And those issues have properties. So I'm looking into using the custom fields feature and then have a custom field that says, so AI initiative, and then yes, no, or potentially. And then have an agent just crawl through GitHub, read the issues, read the comments, and then determine, is this an AI initiative? Can I verify that? If not, make it a maybe. And then what you can do on a project board with GitHub projects, you can go through the whole organization, and based on the filter of the custom value or the custom field, you can show it on the board. So that's my plan. Cool. And then an agent can keep going through GitHub. So
and then you could use an agentic workflow to actually document those repos or those Git issues or whatever where the code is, and then so you have like self-writing documentation as well, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I was playing with that, and then GitHub went down.
Yep.
Speaking of outages.
Yes.
See, I did it.
Very good.
Today we're going to talk about resiliency because recently it's August now. In June, Microsoft released the Azure, I have to say it correctly,
Azure Infrastructure Resiliency Manager.
They're like a AI.
It's a mouthful, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Azure Infrastructure Resiliency Manager. The public preview launched on June 2nd, and you may be surprised, but it also comes with an agent, a resiliency agent, that is still in public preview, so you got to sign up for that.
Do you know what? I'm just looking at this name, AIRM, so ARM, Azure Resource Manager. They've missed a trick here, I think, Microsoft. They should have created a new version of ARM as AIRM and had it Artificial Intelligence Resource Manager. But, this will do.
Yeah. Microsoft, if you do this afterwards, then
Yeah, please
we'll
me.
share some bank accounts. Yeah. So, but the whole thing with with resiliency is your environment resilient? And of course, you have things like DR, backup, high availability, but can your workload actually deal with disruptions? If something breaks, what does your workload do? And I would go as far as to say that most organizations don't know whether their infrastructure is resilient. They just know how it was designed, but was it designed with resiliency in mind?
And hopefully, if they listen to last month's one, they know their backups work.
Yeah,
And that's about
yes.
it. Yeah.
So, but it's so the thing is, Microsoft released this new resiliency manager, and it's like an orchestrator. It brings together like the co-pilots, the Azure backup, the recovery management, everything, even Chaos Studio. And
Ooh.
I mean, Chaos Studio was released a couple of years ago. It was in preview for ages. Then it did not get the TLC it should have, and at some point it did. And what Chaos Studio does is it allows you to to run experiments on your workload. So, for example, you have a virtual machine. Let's push the memory. You have a Kubernetes service, and you install Chaos Mesh on it. Chaos Studio will do that for you. You can do things like, oh, what if core DNS fails? What happens to my workload? So things like that you can test. And then in the infrastructure manager now, all of that comes together, and you can create like drills and automatically test. And it's great. It's like an
Talking
orchestrator.
of drills, there's some drills out of the box, I think, with the new tool as well. Like, because one of the biggest issues with Azure is you got the free availability zones. Technically, there's more, but you're only assigned 3 zones, which are 3 different data centers in the region. And if one of those zones goes down, will your application still work? And it's really hard to test that because you can't control a zonal issue. You could take a VM down in a zone or something, but that's not really testing a full zonal impact. And one of these drills now is actually for taking the availability zone down, so you can actually test it properly. And it works quite well with AKS, obviously, because you should be using availability zones and stuff. And I love AKS, so that's why I'm picking this one. But it's really cool to see like this has changed so much since Chaos Studio from back in the day, where it's so manual. I remember you doing a demo on Cloud Native Weekly, if I remember, many years ago, where you had to create the whole drill as such yourself manually and all of that bits and pieces.
Copy pasting the JSON.
Yeah. Now it seems so easy. It's done for you, which is nice.
Yeah. And then you can also start measuring your resiliency, which I think is very powerful because it comes with the resiliency insights. And you've got this concept of service groups. So we were talking earlier, like normally when you look at Azure, you think tenant, subscription, resource group, resource. And then, I mean, we put like resources for storage. We put that in a storage resource group. But then an application is not just one resource. Most often it is a resource group. How we design and how you, me, and at Incept we design environments, it's not it's not a resource group is not the whole application. It's like more resource group, multiple subscriptions. Think about hub spoke stuff. So you can create these service groups where you put in like so the front door, the Kubernetes cluster, the PostgreSQL database, the key vault. They all go into the same service group, and that's where you start measuring your resiliency, run your drills, etc.
Yeah, but one thing to note is service groups are still in public preview, but they're really cool because it links all of these cross-boundary items into one central management thing. You got like in Azure, you got your management groups, which are like for your role-based access controls and stuff like that. Then your subscriptions and resource groups. But this, like you said, just goes across everything, and it's just so nice to like have this one resource in Azure that says, right, anything inside this resource or link to this resource is for my SaaS application A, and this one is for SaaS application B, and stuff like that. So it's really nice to see this.
Well, and it makes sense, right? Because normally you would, let's say you would configure Azure Backup, or you would use an Azure policy to do that. You would say, all right, so for the resource group, XYZ, that's where you apply the policy. So if I deploy a new VM, then it automatically gets added to backup because that's what my policy does. But that's still limiting just to the resource group. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm very happy with these developments in general. That having said, it doesn't stop with infrastructure, right? If you want to have like a good resilient solution, you have to write your code to be resilient as well. I mean, look at things like transient errors when you do things like Azure SQL. You have to take that into account.
Yes. Yeah. And then like even just your actual applications, not even just like thinking of SQL databases or anything like that, but like in Kubernetes, we have the concept of replicas. So you can have 2 replicas running at one time. But if your code can't support that because of, say, something to do with token affinity or cookie affinity, session affinity, or because it can't handle talking to multiple replicas, talking to a service bus and gets all messy and stuff like that, then yeah, you need to redesign or update your code so it is resilient, because these are like basic. I'm going to say basic now. Some people probably won't agree, but I think it's basic coding practices now is to make sure your app is as resilient as possible because of this age of cloud infrastructure, capacity constraints and stuff like that.
I had this many years ago with a customer who moved to Azure and started using Azure App Services. And they could not have multiple instances. So they couldn't do the horizontal scaling because whenever the app started, it would first go to the database and then download a copy of the database to keep it in memory in the runtime because it was faster. But then you have that problem, right? Because then so eventually the application has to write back to the database. But then if you've got 2 instances, which one is going to write back what? So so then you've written software, but you cannot use the high availability features in Azure, like the multiple instances in an app service plan. So you need to design for that. And I think more and more companies are getting there. I think, we had this whole move to Azure, right? Or move to the cloud. We had data centers, and then we lifted and shifted, and we moved and improved, but essentially we just moved the problem. I mean, it was a problem. You picked it up, you put it in Azure. It was still a problem. You just changed hosters, essentially.
Yeah, so you could just get a new VM spun up a bit quicker, probably, because you're not relying on hardware. But that was back in the golden days when there was capacity in Azure. Sometimes it can be a bit hard nowadays.
But then I think also a lot of Insight business came from there, right? So we started moving customers to Azure. And then the second thing is, hey, but do you want to be more resilient or it's anything? We would start doing that on an infrastructure level. So we, high availability, resiliency, backup, disaster recovery, infrastructure as code. We started doing that, but it was still infrastructure. And I think now, so at some point, your software architecture will become the limiting factor when it comes to resiliency. You can go above and beyond, use this resiliency manager, but I mean, in the end, if your application cannot deal with it, and I think you see a lot of that now when companies mature more in the cloud, so they're more used to the cloud, they're more looking into changing their development practices and standards to fit the cloud more. I think that's where we are now with a lot of companies.
And I think we're seeing that happen a lot more quicker now, thanks to AI.
Definitely,
because you can like say, here's my business logic. This is what I need to do. I need to be able to scale this code, and then it can come up with a plan which you can then review, approve, and then it can even start working on it on your behalf. You hopefully will check the pull request and make sure everything works. Got your tests in there, because you still should be like doing TDD to an extent, test-driven development, even with AI. Maybe not too many tests because it can slow everything down, but a good amount of tests. And then you still need to have that human in the loop to make sure the right decisions are there. AI will just help a bit, but
that's the thing.
It's definitely helped a lot.
It does, and I think it helps speed up, and it also gives you the time to actually think about this. And write the correct prompts, give the right instructions, and all of that. And it's so then you have the thing. You become resilient because you can. So with this, it comes with an agent, right? So
Yep.
you can literally ask it. I think that's even in the blog post. You can literally ask it, write the infrastructure as code for me, and it will just pick up your environment, write the infrastructure as code as resilient as possible, even suggest modifications. But then the other thing is, how do you remain resilient? So you just set capacity constraints, which is an interesting one. So can you restore to the same region if needed? Can your application deal with being deployed to another region? And then everyone will say, well, of course, if you can deploy in region A, you can deploy in region B. Well, are you absolutely sure you don't have any regions hard-coded in any of your deployment scripting, etc.? Right? So things like that also count towards resiliency.
Yeah, and building on that as well, you've got we have 60 plus 60, nearly 70 regions in Azure, maybe more. I don't know. I lost count. Not every region has exactly the same service either. So, you might have a region with availability zones that you've deployed to. Your infrastructure is written for that region. You then try and go to another region that doesn't have availability zones. Your infrastructure fails.
Or less.
Yeah. You just aren't able to deploy because there's not the features in that new region. So you also have to think about your resiliency plan needs to say, right, I need this kind of region. These are the requirements I need for the region. I need to pick my regions first to ensure it will work. Or I have to write my biceps so I can actually say, if you're this kind of region, have this value for zones instead of this value, which is really cool. With I'm always going back to AKS. So AKS is a new in preview feature. When you're normally deploying it through Bicep at the moment, you have to pick zone 1, 2, and 3 and write it in there. You can actually now just write auto, and it will pick the availability zones for you, which is really cool. So I wish more services would pick that up and run with that, because I like that.
I used this after you said it to me. I think it was last week. I had to deploy an AKS cluster, and I went to Sweden Central. It just didn't have the availability zones that I normally had in my Bicep. And then you said, "Oh, you can do this," and it worked.
I just wish more Azure services had that, because it just fixes part of the issue, which is really nice. But yeah, it is crazy the amount of regions we have now in Azure, and you think, I just pick up and move to that region, and then it just won't work. And then obviously you got latency issues. You got with your SQL thing, Redis cache or some other caching service could have helped that issue there. And these are the ideas you need to think of when you're building your resiliency, and how easy you can move it if a zone goes down. Will your application continue to work if a zone goes down, and all of that?
And on top of that, so a SKU is also a thing. Like you got which type of VM and then which family is that available in that region, and if not, can you pick another one? But then you have different, and also building on AKS, because I also love AKS. If you get a different SKU, you get a different CPU to memory ratio. And now let's say your Helm chart. Do you have did you take that into account, the requests and limits, and how that's going to work out with the different?
And it even goes one step further. It even goes one step further, because we had a customer who was trying to save some costs because Azure VMs, and there was cheaper VMs in there that gave them the same CPU, same stuff, but it's different architecture. So you even need to think about this now for resiliency. If you move to a region that does only have ARM processors, capacity-wise, do you have your container images built for ARM processors? Because they won't start otherwise. So it's a lot to think about. It's not an easy thing to be fully resilient. And then I would even say this probably is going to go down maybe wrong, but you can never be 100% resilient in the cloud.
No. But can you even be 100% resilient anywhere? I mean, depends on how big the problem is and whether we still care, right? I mean, if it's like Armageddon, do we really care about
that's true. That's true.
But I think if you look at resiliency in terms of, right, so multi-region or even multi-cloud, I don't know, then you can be as resilient as possible. But 100%, no, I agree.
Yeah. Do you know what? This reminds me of a conversation we had Microsoft Ignite, was it 2 years or so ago? It was when it was in Chicago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and we were saying to some Microsoft people, what we really want is forget about the different European regions. We want Europe as one big region, and then we can move our resources around and everything. You can see what kind of latency you would get if you deploy in this geographic inside the European region, and same for like the US and stuff like that. And just make it so it's so much easier to move around. You don't have to worry about the network egress cost between regions and stuff like that.
That was the big thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I would still love to see that, because I think that would help the resiliency story so much due to capacity constraints and stuff like that.
Yeah, because and I think we're pretty flexible in Europe, same as in the United States. You can deploy to different states or areas, and you still comply with laws and regulations. I think that's the whole thing. So if we can just do it within Europe and we don't have those egress costs for networking, because that was the biggest thing. What if you deploy part of your workload somewhere else? You've got a lot of traffic going back and forth. That's a problem. I would love to see that happen. If it's ever going to happen, I'm not sure, but I'd love to see it.
It would be so cool. Because like latency obviously could be a bit of an issue, but with the Microsoft backbone, their fiber cables, it's not too bad. If you've got a mission critical latency application, then that's where you need to take your resiliency even further. Make sure you got your databases replicating in the regions you need, and your workloads are super close to it. Maybe this could even be a case if you're running in AKS, you run your database in AKS as well. I'm not sure I would personally do that just on my own yet, unless I had a DBA with me. But
yeah. But I think the biggest thing is that. So let's say I'm a e-commerce web shop, and I really don't care that my PostgreSQL in Azure was down. I care that my customers could not place an order and it's costing me money. So we need to stop thinking about like different resources. I see this happening a lot. So we got 99.99% or 999% or whatever magical number you can think of on PostgreSQL. We've got 100% on Azure DNS. We've got 99 point something for your VM skill set. So different SLAs for different. But even if you put all of them on 99.999, if one of them goes down, everything stops working. So we need to stop thinking about SLAs. Obviously, you want one for legal reasons and compliance and whatnot. But stop thinking about SLAs and think about like the operational impact of things.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because like you say, if hopefully DNS never goes down with 100% SLA, but if there's an issue internally with your internal DNS, for example, say you still have an Active Directory controller with internal DNS and that VM goes down because it's on 99.5, that's your whole internal network gone. That's your whole, well, maybe not all, it depends how many DNS, but it's going to cause impact internally and stuff like that. And if your domain controllers just go altogether away, then you're screwed. So you should probably move to Entra as well. I'm seeing quite a lot of that actually online. Microsoft are suggesting you move to Entra rather than Active Directory now for resiliency and better security as well, which is good. So you even need to think of that part, the identity part as well, not just infrastructure, not just code. It goes massive places.
No identity means no logging in. So it makes sense, right?
And then you've got your identity, customers' identities as well. And stuff like that. Yeah.
And then what you really want to do is once you've designed everything very resilient and you can test it, then you want to do the periodic testing, right? You want to have those Chaos Studio drills and just have them run. Like, hey, bring this one zone down because I've designed this to be high available and it's resilient and my application can deal with it. So I'm running in 3 zones, take one down, and then let me know if everything is still running. And I mean, at some point you need to get there.
Yeah.
And maybe the first time, when you do that test, you will just look across the office floor and see if someone from customer care or a customer success manager starts sweating or starts running around, and then what wasn't as resilient as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you need to get
Just
over
turn
that
Teams
point,
off just as you're about to unplug it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But, you know, we did it back in the day.
ideally you'd want to get to yeah.
Yeah.
But ideally you'd want to get to a point where you can actually run that in production with
Yep.
no one screaming at you, and you can share the results with your customers. Say, hey, look, we do quarterly stress tests, chaos testing, and your application is still up and running the whole time.
And how cool
so
is
you
that?
have
You
faith
can
in us.
show that. That would be so
that
cool.
would be
if you
really
do it
cool.
to your customer. Look, we turned off half the environment. It's very resilient. It still works.
Yeah.
Happy
Just don't do it the way Elon Musk did with Twitter, where you just went inside unplugging all these server racks and stuff. Do it in a safe, logical way.
I did something like this once. We had a VMware environment, and it was just my previous job, and it was built, and everything was running like high available across multiple clusters or multiple machines, and very nice. So and then the consultant said, "Look, it's built, it's done, stuff is running on it, it's high available, so technically a server could fail, and you shouldn't notice." So I just went to this.
I think I know where this is going.
Just pulled the plugs, and he was right. He was right.
That's good. That's good. Do you know what? With that, that's I'm guessing using it's kind of like back in the Hyper-V days, it would be live migration. I can't remember what the VMware called it. Probably the same name. I feel that is coming to Kubernetes soon. I've seen in the latest release notes and stuff, like they're having session save states for your memory and stuff like that. So I feel like we're going to have live migration capabilities coming to Kubernetes natively soon, which will be so cool, because I know there's some third-party apps that kind of do it. And then if you are running just a Kubernetes shop and you have got some VMs and they're running inside Kubernetes because you want that central management plane using KubeVirt, then this could be a game changer, because then, do you need VMware?
No, you don't. But there's already a whole movement who's looking into KubeVirt instead of VMware.
Yeah.
But it's, I also had this where my environment wasn't as resilient. Same environment, VMware. A couple of years later, you run at the end of we had these HP DL380s. You run into the end of the support contract, so you don't really want to buy another one, replace it, and you always did that, right? You got the support pack, then you got plus 1 year, and then you try to extend it for another year, like hoping it never goes down. So I had to replace some memory in one of the servers, and it was over years, and we had we had more VMs, but we didn't have the hardware capacity, so I was only running one copy of my file server. And I had to replace memory, and then you have this little blue button, like the blue light.
Integrated lights out.
You have that light you can turn on. So if you do that, so on the front the servers were labeled. So or were labeled. Well, they were labeled. I'm like, oh yeah, I need 1, 2, 3, 4th server from the top. Maybe it was 4, maybe 5th. Don't know me. But then you're supposed to turn on the light, and then you go to the back, and you can see which lights are on, and that's the server you pull the plug on. So I turned off the server in VMware, so it was supposed to be off, but then I didn't. I just went like, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I went to the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, both plugs, and I pull them, and I heard like, this is not the server I turned off. But because my environment wasn't really resilient anymore, because I was only running one copy of my file server was down.
See,
with all the profiles and stuff.
Lovely story, because this also leads into resiliency still, because you started off with a resilient system. Over time, it's grown and become unresilient. So you need to keep doing this. It's not a once and done system. It's like continuous improvement on your actual systems. You need to always design, always think about it, but then costs will get in the way, which I think probably happened here.
It did. It did.
And yes, but then if that does happen, you need to note it down, write it down, add it into your documentation, but keep coming back to it in the next budget and stuff like that, because things like this will happen. Maybe in Azure, it won't be pulling the plugs, but it will be something like, I'm gonna stop and start this VM at night to save money. And then
because I've got 2 anyway, but you didn't have 2. Documentation.
AI says that I have to run in to do it, so I'm just going to do it. Brilliant, thanks.
Yeah.
And no, your documentation is not up to date and stuff like that. But yeah,
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Nice.
I think
like it.
I think that's always also a nice conclusion to wrap things up, because we're already at 30 minutes.
Wow, that's gone quick.
Very quick. Very quick.
Yeah, such an important topic, and I think we've rattled through most of the big points already, so that's good.
Yeah, also one of the most forgotten things, I'd say.
Definitely. But yeah, if anyone hasn't checked out the Azure Infrastructure Resiliency Manager, check it out. It used to be called, I think it was like, the ABCC Azure
Business Continuity thing. Yeah.
Center. Yeah. Rebranded, better features. Give it a try. Let us know how you think of it, what you think of it. We'd love to know.
All right. And well, with that, everyone, thank you for watching. And if you're watching this on a later date, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Yeah. See you, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.